Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some tips for starting a blog, specifically probably from the perspective of Christian blogging or Christian fiction blogging, Christian book blogging. So if either of those things are something that you do, something you enjoy, or something you'd like to learn more about, then by all means keep watching this video and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can watch more videos like this. So what I do, if you don't know who I am, my name is Jenna Van Mourik and I am a Christian author and book reviewer. I don't have any books published yet, but we're hoping to change that soon. So that means that on my blog, I post all kinds of things like writing advice, personal writing updates, as well as book reviews, because that's kind of my niche. I specifically review biblical fiction books because biblical fiction is my favorite genre to read in, and it's also my favorite genre to write in. So that's kind of where my branding comes into play. I'm very passionate about biblical fiction and sharing more love for the genre. I even have my own biblical fiction book club called the Biblical Fiction Buffs, and you can join that as well. The link will be in the description box below if that sounds like something you're interested in. Links to my blog and everything are also in the description box below, so make sure you go and check those out. So a while back, somebody messaged me with some questions about how to start a blog, and I wrote them down. I wrote all my answers down and I really liked them, so I thought I would just kind of reshare those questions with you guys and also reshare with you guys my answers so that all of you guys can benefit from this video and everything too. So let's get into that. So I have 7 questions here that I'm gonna go through, and yeah, let's just get into it. So the first question is, how do you choose a name for your blog? It can be really easy to choose a cheesy name or a name that's a little bit too long or that doesn't really make sense. And choosing a name for your blog is really important, because, you know, that's what people are going to quote you as. That's how people are going to identify you. For instance, I'm just going to pull a random example out of the hat here, but For the Love of Christian Fiction.blogspot.com. That is a blog run by my friend Alicia, but everyone knows her as For the Love of Christian Fiction. That's who she is, that's what she does, and that's what she is known for running. When we went to CFRR earlier this year, we had name tags, and mine said Jenna and hers said Alicia from For the Love of Christian Fiction, because that's how people know her, that's how they recognize her, that's how they identify her. So choosing a blog name that's going to identify you well is very important. So my blog is under my name. My website is www.authorjennavanmourik.com. The link to that is in the description box below if you're interested, but that's just my name, and that's because I'm not specifically just building myself up as a blog, but I'm also building myself up as an author. So when I'm an author and when I'm published, if people Google me, I want them to be able to find me and myself and my blog and my work easily, and the best way to do that is to name my blog after myself. It's not conceited, it's just good branding. So if you're looking to find me, then you'd go to authorjennavanmourik.com, and all of my links and information and stuff would just pop up right there, and you'd see my blog, about me, my WIP, and all of that kind of fun stuff. So that's where my branding came in. However, I have been quoted a few times in book reviews or republished by publishers. Back when I originally started my blog, my name was Jenna Van Mourik. It still is, that hasn't changed. But then my tagline below was a girl who reads, writes, and lives for Jesus. So at one point, someone actually quoted me, an author, I think, re-quoted or republished my review and then published it as by Jenna from the blog Reading, Writing, and Living for Jesus. And I was like, that's not my blog title, but I guess I'll go with that. So if you're gonna have, maybe your name as your blog title, then maybe creating a tagline for your blog as well. My current branding is just my name, and then beneath that, author and reviewer of biblical fiction. So that's kind of my branding now, but if you're going to, you know, have a tagline or something that describes you beneath your name, if you're going the author route or the author direction, then maybe that would be a good way to kind of segue into what your blog is about. So that's just something to think about. Honestly, I do think that we can get really caught up in coming up with names that are flashy or trendy or that have alliteration, like just Jenna's joyful jabberings. I don't know, but like we can get caught up in coming up with names that sound cute or that are clever, and sometimes that isn't always cute or clever. Sometimes that's just us trying to make something happen that won't ever happen. Sometimes simple can be best, like For the Love of Christian Fiction or Books for Christian Girls. Those are two book blogs that just keep popping in my mind as I'm making this video. But those are very, very simple blog titles, blog names. It's straightforward. From reading that, everyone knows what you do. They know what you're about. And sometimes that's best when you're starting a blog, especially if you're starting a new blog, because like if you're just, you know, gonna start a random blog and you're gonna pick like a screen name like Crazy Cat Girl 707788907, then you're going to want to make sure that, you know, you're identifiable, because no one's going to know what you're about if that's your name. They want to be able to, you know, hear your blog title and be like, ah, I see. Unless, of course, you know, you have already built up a brand for yourself, in which case, by all means, use the crazy cat girl lady title thing. A great idea for coming up with a blog title is to put down a bunch of words on a piece of paper that kind of mean something about your blog. So if you're a book blogger, here's an idea, like write down books, fiction, fun, historical, biblical, fiction, just a bunch of keywords that come to mind, and then play around with seeing how you can combine those maybe with your name or maybe with a fun adjective or a modifier to kind of create something that's unique. So that's a really good way to come up with like a blog name or a blog idea. When I was coming up with my initial branding, back when I was known as Reading, Writing, and Living for Jesus, I wanted to come up with a niche, and I was like, what do I want my blog to be about? And the things that I wrote down were I want it to be about books, I want it to be about writing, and I want it to be about my life. So from that, I derived reading, writing, and living for Jesus, which is the common denominator that combines all of those things together and gives me a niche. So that's an idea for you guys to help you come up with a blog name. The second question that I have is, how do you choose which topics to write about and when do you write about them? So the short answer for this is, especially if you're a book blogger, a lot of times your book reviews or book recommendation blog posts will be centered around what time of year it is, like your fall TBR or your winter TBR, or if there's a holiday, Christmas book recommendations or Easter book recommendations. Or especially if there's a new book releasing, you'll want to post about that book when it releases. So sometimes outside events like holidays, time of year, or significant events can sort of change and adapt your blogging schedule. But personally, I don't necessarily have a schedule when it comes to when do I post, because for me, my blog can be a little bit sporadic, and maybe that's bad advice, but I tend to be more active here on YouTube and Instagram. I more regularly post to those social media sites than I do my blog, because blogging for me is something that takes a lot of time to sit there and write down my thoughts and write down a blog post. So I don't really keep to a specific blogging schedule, and I find that that's a-okay. It really is whatever works for you when it comes to blogging. So if blogging twice a week is what works for you and you're able to do that, by all means, go ahead and do that. If you're not really that skilled or can't come up with that many words in such a short amount of time, then don't worry about it. It's totally up to you. You make your schedule, you run your blog, you decide also what you write about. So some people might only want to post a book review and then a writing advice post, or a book review, and a writing advice post, and then another book review. Like you might have a pattern like that, or you might have writing Wednesdays and book review Thursdays, and that's when you post those specific kind of posts. You can create a schedule if you want to, or you can just post whatever you want whenever you want. I don't really have advice when it comes to that kind of thing, but post what makes you happy and post, you know, what you think would be interesting. Sometimes if you post too similar of posts within a short amount of time span, it can be like, why would I read that? I read your last post on the same subject. But that's not always true, especially if you're going to be posting things like book review advice part 1, and then book review advice part 2, and book review advice part 3. That's a series, and people are going to be expecting that you finish that series. But if you're just gonna, you know, post book review and a book review and a book review of 3 books all by the same author with a similar title, that might be a little repetitive, but again, it's totally up to you, especially if you're doing that for like a creative choice or a fun choice, like you're doing a whole month of reviewing books by that author. That could be a choice that you make as well. But like literally the best advice I can give you is post what you want when you want to, because if you're constantly writing blog posts to please someone else, then you're never ever going to make yourself happy, and then you're going to start hating what you do and you're going to despise your blog and you're not going to want to do it anymore. So make sure that you're making it fun for yourself and also fun for others to read. Do you have a specific number of posts that you post per day, week, month, year, etc.? And the short answer to that again is no. I aim to post like 1 to 2 times a month these days because I'm so busy with school and writing and all those kinds of things. Initially, I tried to post 1 post per week because that was something that was important to me, was having 1 post per week. Now I'm more active on social, so I post every day on Instagram as often as I can. And then I also post once a week on YouTube, and that's kind of where my priority is at right now because those are the 2 platforms that for me, I am enjoying the most and I'm growing the most on. So that's why I do that. But the more you post, the more posts that people will be able to find from you. So it is important to, you know, keep posting and keep creating content. You can't just create 1 post and expect people to find you. The more posts you have, the more content you have, the easier it will be for people to see your name and for your name to get out there in people's search engines, their search results, etc., etc. And it's also, I cannot stress enough, and I'm such a hypocrite here, but it is important to be consistent. That doesn't necessarily mean that you post every single Monday, but that does mean that you are consistently posting within a specific amount of time, like that you are actually posting. You're not just not posting because then people will be like, oh, you dropped off the face of the earth. Well, guess I don't have to follow you anymore. So, you know, making sure that you're posting at least some of the time is important. But if you expect people to follow your blog, especially if you're building a blog, then you do need to post regular content, because otherwise, if you're not posting regularly, people will never know what to expect from you because, you know, when someone subscribes, they're expecting posts. They're expecting to read your work. If you're not giving them something to read or something to do, then there's no benefit for them to subscribe to you, if that makes sense. Question number 4 is, do you schedule your posts? And absolutely yes, hallelujah. This is the number 1 tip I can come up with or give you for blogging, and that is batching content. If you don't know what batching means, it means that you're producing a batch of content in like 1 day and then scheduling it so that it goes up like throughout a longer period of time. So for me, when it comes to YouTube, because that's what I'm doing right now, I am in school full time, which is quite a big load of work and responsibility, and I don't have that much free time to write, produce, take pictures for Instagram, make videos for YouTube, draft posts for Facebook, blogs, etc. So in between each school session, I get a 1 to 2 week break depending on what time of the year it is. Right now, I'm in the middle of a 1 week break, and that means I have 1 week to produce as much content as I can and then schedule it so that while I'm in school for the following 8 weeks, there's content going up even if I'm not putting in the work at that time because I'm focusing on school. So the number 1 tip that I have for you guys is when the inspiration strikes you to write as much as you can, and that way you can schedule it so that if you're not feeling like writing 1 week, then that's not a big deal because you already have something scheduled to go up and you don't even have to worry about it. You can wait till the next week to write. That may sound like procrastination, but I promise you it is good advice. Question number 5 is, do you feel like you have to have a strong social media presence for your blog to be read and become popular? I don't really think it's necessary all the time to have a strong social media presence if you want your blog to become popular. But the other thing is, if you don't have a strong social media presence, then you shouldn't necessarily be expecting to become like ultra famous. Very few people go viral. That's why going viral is such a big phenomenon and a big sensation when it does happen to someone. When they go viral and they get all these hits and clicks in such a short amount of time, it's usually a rare phenomenon. If you have a social media presence, then you already have people that are going to be following and clicking and watching your videos and clicking on your blog posts because they're already following you, and that will definitely help you to get consistent traffic to your blog. So consistency is often more important than just sudden sparks of fame. For instance, if you get 200 views on one post, but only like 5 to 10 views on another post, your average for views on posts is still going to be pretty low average views. So that's not really going to help you in the long run. It will help you if you are strong on social media, but that doesn't mean that you have to be strong on every single social media platform. A lot of people just direct people to their website through Instagram, or they start a YouTube channel and that's how they get people to look at their website, or they're very active on Facebook and that's how they get people to look at their website. You don't have to be active necessarily on every single social media platform, but the more social media platforms that you're on, the easier it will be for people to find you. But that's opening up a whole other eggshell on hashtags and tagging and traffic and social media and networking and all this other stuff, which I could do a video about in the future if you wanted me to, but let me know in the comments. Obviously, the more people who follow you, the more people that are going to be interested in your posts and that are going to be clicking on them. But I started out just by asking friends and family to share my posts, and that's kind of how I generated a following, and through word of mouth. So oftentimes, word of mouth or handing out business cards can be equally as important to directing traffic to your website as social media and having a social media presence. So it's really just important to have good expectations and to be able to have a well-rounded way. If you start a blog and you never tell anyone about it, then no one's ever going to find it. But making sure that you are taking steps to at least promote yourself on some level is very important to blogging. It's the most important thing I can say about this subject is that it's very different for everyone. Everyone has a different process. They have a different way of being involved, and that's just the way it is. I consider blogging the full-time job that I don't get paid for, and all of my spare time goes into promoting and running my social media platforms. That's what I do. Whenever I'm not doing something else, I'm promoting myself on social media, or I'm promoting my blog or my work on social media. The idea being that the more work you put into something, then the more that you're eventually going to get out of it. You may not get immediate results. You might, but you might not. But it just takes time, and you have to be patient and remember to, keep putting in that effort and to keep working hard, because hard work will get you places. Question number 6 is, how much of a time commitment do you put into blogging? And like I said, for me, it's my full-time job that I do for free. It's not for everyone. For some people, it's a side gig. For some people, it's just an outlet that they have where they write to get de-stressed. They're not necessarily doing it because they want to have a following. They're just doing it because they find writing therapeutic for them, and that's a-okay too. Everyone is different, but I also do school, and I have a real job, and I have this free full-time job. So for me, I generally get only about 1 to 2 days per week that I can focus solely on blogging, solely on the internet, which is where batch content producing comes into play. So I utilize any free time I have to work on my platform and build up my blog. For some people, they might, just set aside a couple of hours every day. They might set up 1 to 2 days per week. They might only work 1 to 2 days a month on their blog. Everyone's different. It depends on what your goals are, what your reach is, what you're hoping to accomplish, and also what's going on in your personal life. Do you have other commitments, job, family, etc., etc.? But I do think that a good portion of time, yes, is going to be devoted to writing, like the actual writing, but a lot of your time is going to be in promoting, especially if you're planning to do this full time. Most of my time is generally spent on Instagram promoting my blog, or on Facebook promoting my blog, or on YouTube promoting my blog. So there isn't necessarily much time that I'm actually spending on the blog. It is a full-time job, like I said. So it varies from person to person, especially what your goals are. So if you're considering starting a blog, I think it's a really good idea to physically write down, like I said. I talk about writing things down a lot in this, but physically write down what your goals are, what you're planning to do, what you want to get out of this, and then come up with a plan to meet those goals. If your goal is to get 10 followers, then, you don't need to put in like 500 hours of work into getting those. Maybe just asking friends or family. But if your goal is to eventually at some point make money off of this or profit off of blogging, then you're going to need to put in more time and more effort into doing that. So again, it just depends on your goals. And I would strongly consider writing out a business plan for yourself if this is something that you want to do. And the last question is, do you feel like it negatively impacts your relationships with people around you? And I think this question is coming from a point of, do you spend so much time on the internet that you don't have time for your family? Or do you feel like when you're out and about and you're working on your blog, people are over there and they're like, oh, she's working on her blog, and they're judging you and doing things like that? And to be honest, No, I have not had a single bad experience with family members or friends saying, oh, I don't like that you blog. And it doesn't really affect my family either. It's not like I'm constantly posting pictures of them to my socials and talking about them on the internet in ways that they don't want me to. So for the most part, it doesn't affect my family, but it also doesn't affect my relationships with other people in a negative way. My husband is very supportive of what I do, and he's often encouraging me to work more. I'll be at home and I'll be doing nothing. I'll be like, I'm so bored. And he'll be like, why don't you work on your blog, Jenna? And that's seriously so helpful because that's more of a support system than anything else. And support is really, really helpful if you're trying to make it in a creative industry. Also, my family has been wildly supportive in that they're always suggesting things, or they'll see something while they're out and they'll think of me and they'll say, hey, would this be good for your blog? Would this help you with your blog? Or I think this would be a great idea for a blog post. Do you want me to send it to you? And stuff like that. And it's actually just more helpful than anything else. And I think your true friends and family will look at your blog and they'll know that it's something that you want to do and it's something you're passionate about, and they'll most likely support you. But it doesn't really affect my relationships with people negatively. Like I said, most people are incredibly supportive and very kind and very loving, and I love having a support system. And if you don't have a support system, you need to get one. Also, I feel like my relationships with other people have only grown astronomically because I've actually made more friends through having a blog. I have blogger friends now, and friends from Instagram and friends from social media that I never would have met if I hadn't started blogging. So that's another way in which it's actually helped my relationships than necessarily harmed them, because now I have even more wonderful people in my life than I did before I blogged. So those are some questions about blogging, a little Q&A, if you will, about starting a blog, running a blog, what it takes to start a blog, and all that kind of fun bloggery stuff. If you like this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. My name is Jenna Van Mourik. I am a writer, a social media person, and I'm a student, and I like to chat about biblical fiction and Christian fiction and all things books and writing. If that sounds like your kind of thing, then be sure you also check the social media links in the description box below for my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, and go ahead and follow me on those as well, because I do post on Instagram all throughout the week and sporadically on other platforms. You can also find my website at www.authorjennavanmourik.com, where I post writing advice and updates and all kinds of things and book reviews as often as I read new books. So make sure you're subscribed to all of those things and you're subscribed to this channel. If you have any more questions about blogging that you'd like me to answer or give my thoughts on, then be sure to leave those in the comment section below and I will address those as quickly as I can. Once again, my name is Jenna Van Mourik. I will see you guys all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!